Hi everyone, it's Margaret here. I'm back to share a project that I've been working on. It's taken a long time because I've had to make in total about 12 journals that are keepsakes, little heirloom keepsakes that I made for my cousins and my sister and sister-in-law. What I did was, as you saw from the beginning of this video, we found in a drawer some old sheets that belonged to both my grandmothers. And they were their bridal sheets, actually, because back in the day when a young girl was getting married, the girl and the mother, grandmother, aunts would all get together, and they would buy the finest linen, and then they would sit together and embroider the sheets for the bride-to-be. So we found, luckily, both sets, my maternal grandmother and my paternal grandmother. And so they were tattered and patched up, because back in the day, it wasn't a disposable type of society where something got old, you threw it away. They used patches, and they would repair things, and for me that made the sheets even more special, because I know that it was done with their own hands. So I'll start off. Well, just I wanted to say that after I cut up the sheets, actually there's one sheet, the flat sheet, and the pillowcases. Both were embroidered with initials, and it was very customary to embroider a beautiful saying for the newlywed couple. These were, of course, in Italian, because I am from Italy, and it would have been done around the 1920s or so. So I'll start with my my paternal grandmother, and her name was Santa, and I had the pleasure of knowing my grandmother, and we grew up with her. She was always around. She was the matriarch of the family, and she was a feisty woman, and I loved her very much. She was very, very religious. She said the rosary every single day, probably several times a day, and she reserved every special kind of prayer for every single saint, depending on what day it fell. So our strong faith came from my grandmother, and I remember before she died, one of the last things she would say to us was to keep our faith always, and continue going to church always. And I've tried to do that in every way possible, and I think of her so much. So anyway, having used this, you can see that it's very shabby, the linen, but a nice quality linen. I cut it up and formed the base of the book, and then of course I used some embellishments to add on to the piece. But I tried to use as much of the original linen as possible, making bows and flowers and little snippets. As you can see, the little flower here that I made from the linen, little dangly pieces here. So I'll take you through. That's my grandma, and she's a lovely lady. She died at age 93, and again, I have so many good memories of her. So anyway, I made 9 of these and shared them with all my my cousins, the females that were born with our name Del Grosso, and I sent them out to each one, including 2 that are still in Italy. And I do hope that they will treasure this little heirloom. As you can see, this is her initials. Prior to getting married, that she would have embroidered, or someone in the family would have embroidered, and I kept this as a little piece, just tagged it on here. And then again, because she was so religious, this is the Holy Rosary in Italian. how to pray the rosary, and each gal got this tiny little rosary beads, which I included in the pocket. Again, the pocket and all this linen was from her sheets. And then I included these 2 pages, which would have the Lord's Prayer and the Hail Mary in Italian, because I wanted to preserve our heritage and our culture. And I've included both those prayers here. And then on this page, I just made this little ruffly rosette and added some dangly pieces. This side was our Holy Mother, a picture of our Holy Mother. And Grandma had a missalette, actually, and a prayer book that had this particular picture on it. So I took that, and then I embellished it with these beautiful little rosettes. And then the next page, I just added some beautiful beading appliques on this. Going through, again, making a pocket from the linen. And then each girl got a little bit of the fabric of the linen, and I just made these little round bits in here, little tags, and I put them in the pocket here. I didn't want to waste any of the sheet or pillowcase, and I'm telling you, it was meant to be that way, that I used up almost every single bit of it to make these journals. Again, this handmade rose, a little ruffle base there, a little scroll. Now, I haven't put it inside yet, but I'm putting one of her little prayer cards that she had, and I'm going to lock that up in there. Again, another pocket. I can keep a picture or some other thing of hers. And then I use this old clothespin, and I cut some of the linen in strips with some pinking shears, and I rolled it up. And I'm keeping that in here. Grandma was a great crocheter. She was amazing. I think she could crochet with her eyes closed. And she made some beautiful, beautiful blankets and bedspreads. It's just amazing. Again, here, just taking some little snippets with the pinking shears and just tacking them on there. This is just a little book, and in Italian it's got some of her favorite sayings about her faith and things she would say to us. So I included that there. And then on the last page is a picture of Grandma and Grandpa. My Grandpa Peter, he was a wonderful man. I adored him, and he died at age 78. So that just has their names on here. And again, you can see that I've asked the girls to just embrace the stains and the tatter pieces, because to me that means the most. So that's the first grandma from my paternal side. Then I have my grandma from my mother's side, my maternal grandmother, Teresa. She was actually so beautiful. She was actually stunning. And Mom said that she was quite tall as well, and she just used to turn heads. Unfortunately, we never met my grandmother because my mother lost her mom when she was only 9 years old. And shortly thereafter, she also lost her father. So Mom was an orphan, and she's had quite a life. But we always were told stories of her. And so even though I've never met them, there's this beautiful bond that I feel with her and my maternal grandfather. And this one I've shaped into a heart. Again, you can see the linen from her sheets. And I made these little ruffles to border the little the heart shape. This beautiful bow on the side. The rolled rose here, and here again a pocket. This has a bunch of little snippets, as you can see, from every aspect of the sheet. You can see that it was all hand hand embroidered. I don't know what this is called, but I know there's a name for it. And it was all around the top of the sheet. Just beautiful. It's incredible what they did back in those days. And then there's a photo of my mom's family and my grandma when she was older. She died in her early 40s, I believe. And then my maternal grandpa, and his name was Umberto. So that goes in here. And then this page I did just some snippets from the sheet. This was part of her nightgown. That's another thing. Grandma had a couple of cotton nightgowns that were all handmade. Those were all taken apart, and I've reused some of the laces as well in this. And you can see a little bow from there. And then the next page, again, just using some of this tattered linen, I created some ruffles and added some a flower in the center with a button, some pretty pink flowers, some more dangles at the bottom. And here is my maternal grandpa. I love this picture of him. He looked so fine, like just a fine young man. And again, I took this old picture, printed it onto the fabric, and then I just encased it in all these little bits and pieces, a rose, some buttons from this piece again, and that's that page, some dangly bits. And then again, this was a piece that was embroidered, and I wanted to keep this as a separate piece, because, sorry, when I open it up, this will have her, again, her initials that either she or someone in her family would have embroidered. You can see T.G. And I love that piece there. And then again, this is some lace from her nightgown that I preserved on this piece here. And then finally, the last page where I put them together in an eternal heart, which I love, and you can see them together here. She was just gorgeous. I just can't stop looking at her. And yeah, I just embellished this heart with some beautiful little flowers, and again, making this rose out of some snippets. And then just at the back, because I had, again, little pieces of fabric left over, I just took all different shapes and snipped them up and attached them with this little pin and this bow. And then finally, I took a spool and again, covered it up with some embellishments. And the center, I rolled up this embroidery piece, again, from the top of the sheet that went all around. So that I made 3 of these and 9 of the other. So I have been busy, but I have some other projects that I had made quite some time ago. So I'm behind in my recording, and I just wanted to share with you guys some of the things I've been doing during COVID. I've been going back and forth to mom and dad, and then when I get home, you know, after I've done my chores, I always make time to go to the craft room and see what I want to do. So thank you very much for watching. Now you know a little bit about my my history, and I would encourage anyone who has sheets or dress, nightgown, any antique linens that you have of your relatives, make something special for yourself or for your loved ones, and they can keep it in the family. And I think it's just a little physical part that you can have of theirs that you can take with you for all your life. So again, thanks for watching, and see you again soon. Bye for now.